Part 17. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 161. Don't talk nonsense, you know me best, the person I like is right in front of me, Zhang Zizai said seriously. Princess Shenxiao doesn't like it anymore? We are happy enemies. What if I can push her down and conquer her, then I will feel the pleasure of revenge, she asked with a chuckle. Impossible, if I don't kill her, I will die. I want to send her to death today. So cruel. But I heard that Princess Lingxuan's appearance is not worse than Princess Shenxiao, and she is well behaved and sensible. She is the kind of soft and good girl who knows how to serve people the best. Aren't you tempted? Zhang Zizai didn't fall into her trap. He said righteously, I am not interested in young girls. So what you mean is that I am an old girl? No, you are in your youth. Nonsense, you obviously think your sister is old. You want to be beaten. After being beaten several times, Zhang Zizai grabbed her hand and didn't let go. Are you taking advantage of me again? Juxian said coquettishly. Zhang Zizai's eyes were burning, and she said, I just want you to understand that I only like you. Don't be so serious, sister just wants to train you to be a pillar of society, and doesn't want to eat you. You are too young now. When she said eat, Zhang Zizai's mind was full of her pink little tongue. Zhang Zizai gritted her teeth and said, I'm so sorry, What are you apologizing for? You haven't captured my heart, and you are not mine yet. If you want to get married, then get married. Your brother's life is of course important. She put away her smile and said very seriously. Stop joking, I'm not joking, listen to me. Juxian put his palm on his chest and said, actually, I'm a very straightforward person. I only care about your heart. What your heart is like, that's what your feelings are like. Those formal things don't matter to me. Do you understand what I mean? Zhang Zizai asked. What I mean is, I can marry Princess Lingxian, but as long as my heart is with you, you can accept it, right? She shook her head and said, you're wrong. I will definitely not stop you from getting married, but even after getting married, if you touch her, I will let you, he. She glanced at Zhang Zizai's lower body and showed a malicious smile. Pervert. But Zhang Zizai was still very grateful to her. He was very fortunate to meet a woman like her. She lived so freely and cared so straightforwardly. She must have said that getting married didn't matter because of her brother's life. Zhang Zizai, listen to me. At night, she leaned gently on his arm under the moonlight. I'm listening. There was some mist in her eyes, and she said, I know your feelings now. In fact, to be honest, I like you very much. Although I am a little younger, it is quite interesting to be with you. I feel like I'm in love. Sister, I'm not young anymore. She pinched Zhang Zizai's arm, making Zhang Zizai grimace in pain. Listen carefully, don't make trouble. She looked out the window with longing eyes and said, if you really choose me, maybe the road we will take in the future will be very long. I'm not even sure where my future will be. I have a lot of ties in my heart that I haven't completed. My destiny is more difficult than you can imagine. I'm afraid I've delayed you. No, I can wait, Zhang Zizai said firmly. You are too young and full of confidence in everything. How could you know that many things in this world are irresistible? She smiled. I know, so only if you work hard can life have meaning. If you say that, then I'll take this as your promise to me. You must stick to it. Don't give up halfway and find other women. I will always wait for you to grow up. She stared into Zhang Zizai's eyes, and there was a hopeful look in her eyes like a girl. Zhang Zizai heard that she was not as carefree as she looked. She must be carrying a lot of things, but she didn't tell herself. That's why she said that if you choose her, the road to go in the future will be very long. You must insist, and it will be possible to achieve it if the two insist together. Can you tell me what kind of fetters you have? Juxian shook his head and said, "You have enough things to worry about, so don't worry about me, just focus on your own things. I'm fine for the time being, and when you can help me in the future, I will naturally not waste your free labor." "Okay, I won't let you down, I will insist." The young man made his promise under the moonlight. "It's okay. Life is long. Maybe someone will change your mind. If you choose someone else, I won't blame you. After all, I'm not sure if I will hurt you. For Zhang Zizhe, as long as she is willing to wait for him, that's enough. He enjoys the feeling of her leaning on him and relying on him. At other times, she protects him. Persist and wait. This is his mission. For her, he is willing to do this. Not only because she is his benefactor, but also because he likes her. Since it's confirmed, I'll tell you clearly, Juxian is a little fierce. I'm all ears. I can understand the deep affection between brothers, understand that you are pushed by the Flame Dragon Emperor, and understand your marriage with Princess Lingxian, but getting married is one thing, you can't touch her, it's better not to talk to her, forget about the bridal chamber, everything has to be left to me." She looked at Zhang Zizhe forcefully, her eyes shining. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Don't make it so troublesome, you can take it now. I won't resist. Zhang Zizhe began to undress. "Stop, the cabbage is not cooked, eating it will cause diarrhea." Juxian held his hand, the two looked at each other and laughed. "But to me, I am a hungry wolf, you are a big piece of fat meat, swaying in front of me every day, I am starving." Zhang Zizhe looked at her hot body with ill intentions. "You dare to say I'm fat? Don't you know this is a taboo for girls? You're looking for death." Late at night, another round of beating with pink fists. "I'm going back to King Jiang City tomorrow. Will you go with me?" Zhang Zizhe asked expectantly. "I don't want to watch you being affectionate. Get lost. This is my room. Then you have to get out too." Late at night, in the palace. Lingyanzai is the bedroom of Princess Lingxian. Princess Lingxian likes quietness, so there is not a single maid in Lingyanzai. On weekdays, only the imperial kitchen in the palace has the most exchanges with Lingyanzai. Every day, the imperial kitchen has to deliver a lot of food, and then leave after delivering it, so as not to disturb Princess Lingxuan's enjoyment. It is rumored that Princess Lingxian is really a monster. She has to eat a lot of food every day, especially late at night, when the imperial kitchen is closed. Someone has to be on duty, on time, to prepare a full banquet for Princess Lingxian and send it over. And there are quite a few, which are ingredients of spiritual medicine level. There were few lanterns in Lingyanzai. A small red lamp was lit in the yard. The lights in the front hall flickered and the aroma was fragrant. A table of delicious dishes had been prepared a quarter of an hour ago. In the past, Princess Lingxian would have been hungry and thirsty, but today's dishes were not touched. In the yard, the girl sat on the swing, with her legs together, swaying in the wind. She lowered her head and her long hair fell down like a waterfall. A pair of red eyes in the darkness were like rubies, clear and pure. She held a flower in her hand, and she picked the petals one by one and held them in her palm. She was lonely, with only the swing to accompany her. She grew up in this yard and swung on this swing. After finishing her studies in Shenlong Palace every day, she returned here. Only when she sat on this swing could she feel at ease. When she was 3 years old, her parents put her on the swing and said, "Yanur, we are going out for a while and may not be back for a few days. You must be obedient at home and don't run around, understand?" "No, I don't want you to leave." The girl's red eyes hid deep reluctance. "If Yana runs around, makes trouble everywhere, and is not good, Mom and Dad will not come back," the man threatened. "Well, Yana will be on the swing and won't move a step. You must come back soon. Don't worry, silly child." Then they left, and she really kept swinging on the swing, swinging and swinging, watching the sun rise and the sunset. She was startled by the sounds outside countless times, jumped down in joy, and sat on it in disappointment countless times. "Daddy, Mother, didn't you say that Yanner would be good and come back soon?" She wiped her tears on the swing day and night. "But why don't they keep their promises?" She rocked and rocked, waiting and waiting, from the age of 3 to 14, 11 years, and she didn't know how many tears she had shed. The swing made by her father broke, and she repaired it herself. It is still there now. Only when she sits on it can she feel at ease. Half a month after they left, someone told her that his parents had unfortunately passed away and went to another world. She cried so hard. Why, they went to another world and didn't come back. Didn't they say that as long as they were good, they would come back? At that time, she didn't know that going to another world meant death. When she was 5 years old, she finally knew about death. She hung a rope on the swing frame, wanting to hang on it and go to find her father and mother. She was discovered. From then on, someone kept watching her until she stopped talking. Every day, she seemed to be happy only when she filled her stomach. Why was she still hungry late at night? Because it was the most painful at this time when it was late at night. But now, a table full of food can't make her happy. The person who was high above and in control of everything, the person she was afraid of. With just one word, he controlled her fate. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 162. Lingxian. A quick, rude voice broke the silence of the darkness. The girl raised her head, and her stunning appearance still radiated a moving brilliance in the dim light of the lantern. She didn't like to be seen by others, and only on this swing could she face her true self. With a snap, the gate of the yard was pushed open, and a girl in a red dress stood there. She cut her long hair short, and after trimming, she still looked like a phoenix. But her eyes seemed to be still a little red, and it was obvious that she had been in a bad mood recently. Sister Lingxian got off the swing and came to her with her head down. Princess Shenxiao stood on the steps, looking down at her and asked, "What do you think of the marriage granted by my father?" "Sister, Yanner can't decide anything," she said softly. "So you are ready to accept it, right?" Shenxiao asked with gritted teeth. "But, what else can I do?" Her voice was as thin as a mosquito. At the Six Mansions Gala, Zhang Zizai performed so amazingly. "He is quite attractive, right? I think you are fascinated by him." Princess Shenxiao gently clenched her fists. Princess Lingxian raised her head and looked at her excitedly. She shook her head blankly and said, "Sister, I don't know what the meaning of living is. If you hate me, I'd rather die." She was speechless. This person has been like a blade of grass since she was a child. If she was not still breathing, she would really think she was dead. "I warn you, no matter what, you are not allowed to touch him in the future, and it is best not to talk to him. Even if you get married, he will live his life and you will live your life." There was a warning in her voice. Princess Lingxian was stunned. She asked, "Sister, are you in love with him?" "Shut up." Princess Shenxiao held the door, her eyes trembled for a moment, but she soon became firm and sneered, "I just want to kill him now. Let him not live to the day of marrying you. Don't be impulsive. Killing him will ruin your reputation," Lingxian whispered. "What's it got to do with you?" Shenxiao glared at her. Lingxian didn't answer. She pursed her lips and threw the flowers in her hand to the ground. "I'm leaving. Remember, don't let me know that you're in love with him," Princess Shenxiao warned. Lingxian nodded. When Shenxiao walked to the door, Princess Lingxian suddenly said, "Don't you feel too tired to live like this?" Princess Shenxiao turned around, sneered at her, and said, "How can you, who lives in a dream every day, know my ambition?" With a snap, the door closed heavily. Princess Lingxian stood there for a long time, then returned to the swing and continued to swing. She didn't see that there was a pair of eyes in the dark, staring at them and listening to them talking. Lu Yuan's body was placed in an ice coffin, and the ice could keep the body intact. In the early morning, Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing worked together to lift the body onto a carriage pulled by 3 black-scaled horses. Lu Dingxing sat in the carriage and he rode the horse back. "Dad, I will take you home." He knelt in front of the ice coffin and kowtowed. He didn't shed tears easily. He had promised his father at night that he would never cry again in this life. Zhang Zizai, Ruo Xiaoyu and Zhang Yuning rode black-scaled horses to guard them. As for Wanqian and Bai Shenjin, they wanted to follow, but Zhang Zizai saw that the journey was long, so he let them stay in the temple to continue practicing. When the sun just rose, they brought many disciples to see Zhang Zizai off. Juxian didn't come. They had been together all night last night. She didn't want to see Zhang Zizai and Princess Lingxian reunite. Zhang Zizai didn't wait for long, and a team of more than 10 imperial guards came here with a carriage. This looked like an elite team, and all of them were totem warriors above the 4th or 5th level of the Xuanmei realm. The young man in the lead was wearing black armor, looking mighty and domineering, with sharp eyes and a sinister smile on his face. Judging from his attire, he was at the level of the Black Blade commander in the Imperial Guards, commanding hundreds of Imperial Guards alone. Only a dozen people were brought this time, so not all of them should be present. "Young Prince, and Princess Yuning, I am Nangong Fenjiao of the Imperial Guards, and I am responsible for escorting Princess Lingxian to and from Daejiang King City." This time the young man stepped forward and said. "Tianpeng clan?" Zhang Zizai asked. "Yes, my brother Nangong Fengchen has been to Daejiang King City and disappeared there. I also thought that I could investigate this time." Nangong Fenjiao smiled. "I have seen him." Zhang Zizai nodded. "Could it be that the young prince killed him? I heard that you met in the Black Soul Abyss." Nangong Fenjiao smiled. "Don't joke, the princess is in the carriage, right?" Zhang Yuning interrupted their conversation. "That's right. Zizai, follow me to say hello to the princess." Zhang Yuning got off the horse, and Zhang Zizai followed her. When they arrived in front of the carriage, Zhang Yuning said, "Princess, I'm Zhang Yuning. Can we set off?" Yes, a voice came from inside, and it seemed that she was not going to come out either. This was good, so as to avoid the awkward meeting. Zhang Yuning gestured for Zhang Zizai to say hello as well. "Then let's go." Zhang Zizai was too lazy to say hello. He said and returned to the horse. He had already started, and Lu Dingxing and the others followed. The group took the small road Loki and left Yanlongxiu. They were in front, and Princess Lingxuan's team followed behind. There was no communication between them. Nangong Fenjiao occasionally glanced at the young man in front of him. His eyes were cold. He had a premonition that his brother must have died because of him. In the carriage, it must be Lu Yuan's body. Originally, he was going to be beheaded and his head was hung up, but now he is being taken back for burial. If he can be buried, who will bury the 100,000 wronged souls? God, it's unfair. There were some people watching on the road. They didn't care about anything. They said whatever they wanted to say, but Lu Dingxing was used to hearing these. He just believed that one day, he would return his innocence to his father. This was his greatest desire in this life and his destiny. That's Princess Lingxian behind. It is said that she is going to meet Princess Ruohua. When they return from the great Zhongqing city, they will be married soon. I actually think that His Majesty is really bold to marry his daughter to the son of a guilty minister. He also wants to lead Zhang Zizai to the right path. After all, His Majesty is a person who loves talents. Speaking of which, although Princess Lingxian is not a real princess, she has been canonized after all. Her status is a princess, and everything is in accordance with the princess's standards. I just don't know what Princess Shenxiao will think, haha. I don't know if there will be a drama between the sisters fighting for a husband, then there will be a good show to watch. The dynasty is too big, there will be all kinds of people, and no one can control what others think or say. Zhang Zizai knows all this. After they left Yanlongxiu, such a small team did not attract much attention. The guards also changed into casual clothes to facilitate the journey. Princess Lingxuan's carriage itself was not luxurious. They were basically silent along the way. They traveled during the day and rested in the inns along the way at night. Zhang Zizai basically stayed beside Lu Yuan's body. When they arrived at the inn, Princess Lingxian went directly to the room to rest. Only Zhang Yuning occasionally went over to greet her as a courtesy. "Brother, will she become my sister-in-law?" Ruo Xiaoyu watched Princess Lingxian get off the carriage and asked Zhang Zizai quietly. "I don't know," Zhang Zizai said. "Princess Lingxian, she is so quiet, much better than the other princess. She doesn't talk." Ruo Xiaoyu has been observing her all the time. Zhang Zizai did think that Princess Lingxian was a bit strange. She and Shen Xiao were both princesses, but their personalities were really different. However, her red blood dragon totem was a bit scary, and it seemed to be more fierce than Zhang Zizai's black dragon. Zhang Zizai thought that since there was no contact and no feelings, even if they got married in the future, they could just call each other names and not interfere with each other. Princess Lingxian didn't seem to want to get close to him, so it was just right. A few days passed in a blink of an eye, and they were halfway through the journey. They were about to enter Qingluan County. Sister Dongyang was taken back to Qingluan City. "I guess she won't be allowed to return to the Huguo mansion in the short term," Zhang Yuning said. "This prince is really mean. He has nothing to do with my brother and sister Donjiang's affairs, but he still wants to intervene," Zhang Zizai said disgustedly. "If my brother can come out, it will be good. Sister Dongyang must have heard the news that His Majesty said that he would release my brother. Even if he is in Qingluan City, she will be happy." "Yeah," Zhang Zizai nodded. "My brother must be let out. He has been to Tai prison. It is too lonely and desperate there." Whenever Zhang Zizai thinks that he is still suffering in there at this time, he can't tolerate it. It was already evening after the day's journey. Zhang Zizai decided to rest in the Nanling city ahead. They still needed to walk for half an hour at night. The team had to pass through a forest, where black locust trees were everywhere, like ghost claws sticking out of the ground. Between the shadows of the trees, a man in black wiped the sword in his hand and waited here for a long time. Her bright red tongue licked the blade, and a cruel smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 163. Zhang Zizai rode his black-scaled horse in front of the team. It was already completely dark, but they could reach Nanling City by passing through the woods. There was no moon tonight, and the sky was particularly dark. The woods were filled with the sounds of insects and beasts, which was a bit scary. Nangong Fenjiao rode forward and rode side by side with Zhang Zizai. He smiled and asked, "Young prince, may I ask, do you hate Zhang Yunting?" "Are you sick?" Zhang Zizai asked. "That's not the case, but I think that if my father turned out to be a murderous devil who killed 100,000 people, I would hate him and want to kill him." "Family affection has blinded your eyes," he said with a smile. Get lost. Zhang Zizai was too lazy to pay attention to him. He knew that Nangong Fenjiao was suspicious of him, but without evidence, he had no choice. At this moment, Zhang Zizai saw a dark shadow standing on the road in front of him, and his first reaction was very bad. Nangong Fenjiao also saw it, and he said impatiently, "Get out of the way, don't block the road." His shout was like thunder. He was a master of the Saint Body realm and could walk sideways throughout the dynasty. But unexpectedly, The black shadow didn't move. Zhang Zizai felt a little scalp tingling. He quickly signaled Zhang Yuning and the others to stop and retreat. Nangong Fenjiao stayed where he was, and his troops immediately went forward. What's wrong? Princess Lingxian opened the door of the sedan chair and saw the black shadow in the dark night. She might have remembered something and hurriedly said, "Run." It seems that she has never been so anxious. Zhang Zizai saw that it was a woman with a very hot figure. She was wrapped tightly in black clothes, but her curves were fully displayed. She was convex in front and curved in the back, with a slender and powerful waist, and straight, round, and slender thighs. It can be broken by pinching the waist. He thought of someone, Qin Zhen. The woman who guarded Princess Shenxiao. This was the first reaction. But this time, she was holding a sword in her hand, and she was obviously here for a mission. "Didn't you hear me? Get out of the way." Nangong Fenjiao shouted angrily and said to his men, "You three, chase her away." As soon as he finished speaking, the black shadow actually moved, like a phantom, attacking them. Puff puff puff. 3 sword lights pierced through the heart, and the 3 totem warriors fell to the ground in an instant. Looking for death. Go together. Nangong Fenjiao knew that he had met a tough guy, so he had to take action. More than 10 of them quickly surrounded him to subdue this daring guy. He didn't expect that this woman was so scary. Before he made a move, a sword light flashed by. He looked down and saw that the blade actually pierced through his chest. At that moment, the sky spun and the earth turned, and the whole world quickly dimmed. I. He would never know that in just this moment, he was already dead. Puff. The sword was pulled back, and Nangong Fenjiao fell to the ground without even seeing his opponent. Run. The remaining guards were pale and fled madly. The woman didn't care about them at all. In the darkness, her eyes saw Zhang Zizai. It was an unprecedented death crisis. This was not the 6 prefectures' grand meeting, nor any duel between him and Zhang Zizai. This was a master who was much stronger than him and wanted to assassinate him. He never expected that someone would do this. At this moment, the death of Nangong Fenjiao made everyone's scalp numb. The strongest here was Nangong Fenjiao. He died instantly. Others could not stop him at all, and they couldn't even escape. Zhang Zizai knew that there were so many important people around him, including his sister, his younger sister, and his best brother. The guards were all fleeing, so who cared about them? He himself felt that he was dead. At the critical moment when the other party stared at him, he reacted instinctively. He laughed and said, "What kind of villain is this? You want to kill me? Can you catch up with me?" The moment he finished speaking, he cast a lightning storm, and then attached a bunch of acceleration symbols to himself, and fled to the side at the maximum speed. "Go," he hinted to Zhang Yuning and the others. He knew that her target must be himself. As long as he escaped, she would not care about Zhang Yuning and the others, but as long as he stayed here, she might kill them all together. From the process of her killing the guards, she killed people casually. Killing Zhang Zizai, and then adding another Zhang Yuning, Ruo Xiaoyu, and Lu Dingxing, what's the big deal? Now he only hopes that he can take this murderer away, and hopes that his sisters can understand his good intentions and hurry up to escape from here. He felt the murderous intent behind him, and he knew that he had succeeded a little bit. The woman was really chasing him. Fortunately, it was dark, and fortunately he reacted quickly and was fast, otherwise he would die after running 2 steps. He rushed into the woods, using the trees as a cover, and rushed into the thick bushes. If the surrounding area was flat, he might really die in an instant. "You must go, you must go." At this moment, he may realize that he was too young and frivolous. He was famous in the 6 prefectures festival, but with his strength, he was a vulnerable prey in this real jungle. The only thing he could do now was to run as far as possible to give Zhang Yuning and the others some time to leave, but he knew very well that he would not be able to escape from the palm of that woman's hand today. The farther the better, the longer you can hold on, the better. His scalp was numb and his mind was blank. Lightning storm, it's quite useful here but not far away, he heard the woman's voice, almost ringing in his ears. This chapter is not over yet, please click the next page to continue reading. Goodbye, Zhang Zizai. A fragrance came to his nose. Puff. Zhang Zizai stopped, he looked down, the bloody sword blade pierced from behind, went out from the chest, and directly pierced the heart. For a moment, the world was spinning, and the chest was really piercing. This was a fatal injury, he was dead. At that moment, he was desperate. Puff. The sword behind him was pulled out, and blood flowed down, dyeing his clothes blood red. Zhang Zizai stretched out his hand to cover his chest, trying to plug the blood back, but the front was blocked, but the back was flowing wildly, the whole person quickly became dizzy, and the picture in front of him began to become blank. I know, you are Qin Zhen, Zhang Zizai said these words with all his strength. He turned back with all his strength, but his sight had completely disappeared. He could clearly feel that his life was disappearing rapidly. It's useless to know, the woman laughed tenderly, and her voice became farther and farther away. Zhang Zizai knew that he was dead. Even thinking disappeared at this moment. He didn't cry, but felt it was a pity. He didn't expect to die like this. This world is really terrible. If a person dies, no matter how talented he is, it's useless. Sister, Xiaoyu, Panda, you must live, we can't die, we can't all die. This was his last thought, and all he wanted at the moment. He didn't want his mother to bury so many people at once. He also flashed the woman in his mind, her white dress fluttering, her smile engraved in his heart. Juxian. In the last moment, he wanted to shout out this name. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 164. Brother, wake up quickly. The familiar and urgent voice came to mind in a blur. It's Sister and Xiaoyu. Zhang Zizi gained some consciousness in a hazy state. After I died, I could still hear their voices. Maybe they saw my body. Zhang Zizai felt bitter in his heart. He knew that they would definitely be sad for a long time. Living people are more painful than dead people. There are no scars on his body, he is not dead, and he is still breathing. Faintly, Zhang Yanning's voice crying with joy was heard again. Zhang Zizai smiled helplessly, this sister is so sad that she has lost her mind. How could there be no wounds when it passed through her heart? There is really no wound, but why is there so much blood? Ruo Xiaoyu's trembling voice was heard again. Zhang Zizai was speechless. These two were so inconsiderate. He really wanted to get up and tell them that the wound was on his chest. It was so big that they couldn't see it. Let's go to the town ahead quickly and let him rest on my carriage. Faintly, Princess Lingxuan's voice was heard. Her voice was thin and soft, like coming from a deep valley, ethereal and out of the dust. Thank you, Princess. Just like that, Zhang Zizai felt that his body was jolting, and someone was carrying him. He was wondering why death could be felt so clearly. Suddenly, he felt that he had regained some energy and strength. He opened his eyes, I found someone was carrying me. There was a dark night in front of him, but Lu Dingxing's head and his hair were so clear. Zhang Zizai was very weak, but he was confused. Are you all dead? He struggled to ask. Brother, if Xiaoyu was nearby, she heard the sound and screamed. Several people gathered around him, and everyone looked at him in surprise. We are not dead, and neither are you, Boss Lu Dingxing said loudly, with surprise in his eyes. Zhang Zizai laughed dumbly and said, how could I not be dead? I He looked down and saw that his clothes were stained red with blood. But at this time, he suddenly remembered something. "Put me down." He struggled for a while, and Lu Dingxing asked him to come down, but at this moment, maybe because he had lost too much blood, he could not stand firmly. He could only sit on the ground, and then he couldn't wait to tear open the shirt on his chest. The mysterious talisman on the chest turned gray. Dark again. In fact, just after Zhang Zizai set off from Yanlong ruins, the mysterious talisman completely returned to green, but during the whole process, Zhang Zizai never expected that this talisman could save him from such a fatal injury. He now somewhat believes that this is the immortal talisman that the 9 Immortals said was one of the 6 great talismans from the ancient gods. The sword that pierced through the heart was definitely real. But looking at it now, there really weren't any scars on his chest, only a lot of remaining blood around it. "I'm not dead. I'm not dead," Zhang Zizai burst into tears from laughter. How wonderful it feels to have hope and a false alarm in the midst of despair. After dying once, his state of mind actually changed. He believed that not many people in this world could have a death experience like his. "I'm not dead, so I must rebel against this world." After reliving and experiencing death, he has a better understanding of what is important in this life and what is worth pursuing. He smiled even more like crazy. There were 2 women holding him, his elder sister and younger sister. They must have been worried. "We all thought we would lose you forever. Brother, you can never die." Zhang Zizai hugged their weak shoulders, his eyes became firm, he knew how important he was. He was very happy now that he was right in luring the woman away. She had no intention of killing Zhang Yanning and the others, but if she didn't leave, she would definitely kill them along the way. Maybe he didn't die in the end, but his sisters and brothers were all dead, so how miserable he must be. "You didn't die this time, and you won't die in the future, don't worry." Zhang Zizai patted them on the shoulders. He looked around. Only Princess Lingxian stood in the darkness in the distance, watching them silently. The guards were gone. Have all the imperial guards run away? Zhang Zizai was still dizzy. They nodded. He said, "Hurry to Nanling City and buy some homing pigeons. The Imperial Guard will definitely send a message saying that I am dead. Please report to my mother that I am safe first." He paused, thought of her, and added, "Let the Temple of Sacrifice be safe as well." This was the most urgent thing to do as quickly as possible. He was unwilling to let his mother suffer the slightest harm. Good. After finishing speaking, he was still a little dizzy. In fact, he was quite pale at the moment. It must be because he had lost too much blood. For the time being, he still needed some time to recuperate. When Zhang Zizai gradually fainted, he vaguely heard Zhang Yanning say, "Princess Lingxian, please excuse me." Then, he lost consciousness again and fell into a deep sleep. However, if the news of safety could reach his mother and the 9 Immortals as soon as possible, he would be relieved. Princess Shenxiao, Qin Qin. Before Zhang Ziyu lost consciousness, 2 people appeared in his mind. Qin Qin and the woman holding the sword completely overlap. Zhang Zizai never expected that Princess Shenxiao would kill him in such a way. Ziyu's account has not yet been settled, and there is still such a life and death feud. Next, let's wait and see, he will definitely avenge himself. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Imperial City, Suxi Palace. This is the bedroom of the imperial concubine Sufei. The current empress is not favored by the emperor, and there are several concubines in the harem who are favored, among which Sufei is the most respected. No one thought that a weak woman could be so successful in the harem, and she didn't even give birth to a son for Emperor Yanlong. The concubines of emperors of all dynasties are honored by their sons, but she is good, honoring her daughters, and gave Emperor Yanlong the only little princess. It is said that Emperor Yanlong spent more time in Suxi Palace than in other harems, which actually shows that in this harem, Sophia is the most proud person. Late at night, a beautiful woman in a soft palace dress sat lazily, with a chessboard in front of her, and opposite the chessboard sat the supreme emperor of the dynasty, Emperor Yanlong. "Your Majesty, you lost again," Sophia smiled. "Smart, you are still one step ahead," Emperor Yanlong smiled. "They have played chess like this countless times. She has the ability to suppress him in this aspect, so she has the capital to be valued by him. Other concubines only know how to dress themselves up beautifully, but they don't know that he only likes people who can talk." "Another game?" Sophie asked. No. Emperor Yanlong sat upright, staring at this beautiful woman, and asked, "Did you arrange the matter of the dragon soul jade?" Sophie lowered her head and said, "Yes, I was wrong. Next time, don't let Yanner do something smart, it will easily make her lose her inner balance. Especially after the Six Mansions festival, she has a demonic barrier in her heart." "I know." Sophie looked worried. "I have been trying to comfort her these days. However, I didn't expect that Zhang Yunting, the youngest son, has this ability." As soon as the voice fell, a voice that was neither positive nor negative suddenly sounded outside. "Your Majesty, there is an urgent report." "Go ahead," Yanlong Emperor said. "The team escorting Princess Lingxian to the Great Zhongqing city was intercepted and killed. Someone saw Zhang Zizai dead." Yanlong Emperor nodded and said, "Withdraw." Sophie thought for a while and said, "Your Majesty, no matter how stupid Yanner is, he will not do such a stupid thing." Yanlong Emperor smiled coldly and said, "I know that someone is too smart. He is really useless." He seemed a little angry. "A good chess piece was ruined for me." Sophie was happy. "You are happy? Yanner's demon barrier is gone, and there are still people who ruin their future." Yanlong Emperor glanced at her. "I dare not." "Let's play another game," Yanlong Emperor said. "It seems that this urgent report is also irrelevant to him. By the way, why does Lingxian stay now?" Sophie suddenly asked. "Don't worry about things that you shouldn't worry about. Don't you understand this principle better than anyone else?" Yanlong Emperor raised his head and looked at her. Concubine Su lowered her head and said no more. A quarter of an hour later. "Your Majesty, you lost again." The chessboard had just been put away when the eunuch outside reported, "Your Majesty, Madam, Princess Shenxiao wants to see you." Emperor Yanlong waved his hand and said, "Let her go back to practice." Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 165. When he woke up again, Zhang Zizai was sleeping on the bed in the Nanling City Inn. It was almost dawn. "Boss, I sent a pigeon last night. I chose the fastest wind bird. It should reach Yanlonghuang and Dajiangguang City in half a day, which is faster than your bad news." Lu Dingxing stood by the bed and watched him for a while. "Is Xiaobao awake?" Zhang Yuning and Ruo Xiaoyu came forward quickly. Zhang Zizai shook his head, still a little groggy. "He lost too much blood and it would not be recovered in one day." "Do you know who did it?" Zhang Yuning asked. Zhang Zizai said, "There is a person beside Princess Shenxiao, named Qin Zhen. This assassination was ordered by her." Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. "Why did she want to kill you?" "The Six Mansions Festival, I know how much she hates me. But it will eventually be leaked out." "Isn't she afraid of being abandoned?" Zhang Yuning was angry, but unbelievable. In fact, Zhang Zizai didn't expect that she would be so impulsive, but he didn't know how strong this woman's revenge would be. When there was no grudge, she took out the dragon soul jade, let alone now. "Wait until we return to the sacrifice temple, and settle the two accounts together." Zhang Zizai took a deep breath. "Now we should hurry back and let Lu Yuan rest in peace." Zhang Zizai looked at the time and said, "It's dawn, let's go. Take a detour." Everyone washed and packed their luggage. "I'll go call Princess Lingxian," Zhang Yuning said. "Her guards all fled." "Why didn't she flee?" Zhang Zizai asked. "Don't talk nonsense, she's fine. You slept in her carriage last night, she was taking care of you in there," Zhang Yuning said. Oh, Zhang Zizai didn't think much. He struggled to get up, insisted on walking to the door, just rode on the black scale horse, and his head was still dizzy after a few steps. "Princess, can I let my brother go up?" Zhang Yuning asked. Okay, Princess Lingxian didn't seem to like showing up, so she stayed in the corner all day, and she didn't seem to want to come out. "Buy another carriage," Zhang Zizai whispered. Zhang Yuning glared at him and said, "No one dislikes you, why are you talking nonsense?" Zhang Zizai really couldn't ride a horse now, so he could only lift the curtain to go in. It was quite big inside. Princess Lingxian was sitting in the corner, motionless. Zhang Zizai felt really uncomfortable after coming up, so he lay on the blanket, and the team set off. It was called a team, but in fact there were only a few people. Crack, crack, crack. The carriage was moving, and the wheels rolled on the broken stones, making a constant noise. In the blink of an eye, a long time had passed, and Princess Lingxian didn't move or make a sound, as if she was dead. Zhang Zizai was a little annoyed. He turned over and looked at the girl in the corner with her hands on her knees. He squinted his eyes and asked, "You should know who wants to kill me, right?" Princess Lingxian pursed her lips and said softly, "You know it yourself, so why bother to test me? In your impression, would Princess Shenxiao be so cruel? Sister is actually very good, but a little stubborn. She likes to win and doesn't like to lose. If you lose, you have to hire someone to kill you," Zhang Zizai sneered. Princess Lingxian shook her head and didn't answer. Maybe she was confused herself. Just when they had this opportunity to spend time alone together, Zhang Zizai asked, "What do you think about the marriage granted by Emperor Yanlong?" She said in a daze, "I don't know. It doesn't matter. I can do whatever I want." Zhang Zizai said, "In fact, we don't have much in common. I don't know you either." This arrangement was originally hasty. Princess Lingxian looked at him, pursed her lips, and said, "I know, so I'll listen to you. I know you have many frustrations in order to save your brother. So even if we get married in the future, we will go our own way and we will not owe each other anything. Is this what you want to say?" Zhang Zizai was stunned. He didn't expect her to be so straightforward, which saved him a lot of effort. "I'm sorry, I've affected your life," Zhang Zizai said. "It doesn't matter. I was born in the royal family and I will get married eventually. I'm lucky to meet you. It just so happens that you are not interested in me," she said softly. I don't know why, but I feel that there is a gray vortex on her body. I can't feel any happiness. Such people are really rare. If Zhang Zizai didn't speak, she would remain silent. It was strange that a person could be so quiet. After a few hours, Zhang Zizai couldn't help asking, "Why do you wear a veil all day?" "Let me see." He was just curious. After all, he hadn't even seen what she looked like until now. "I thought she would refuse, but she seemed to be a submissive person." As Zhang Zizai spoke, she gently took off the veil. Under the veil, there was a moving girl. Her beauty was not inferior to Shenxiao, but her temperament was completely different from that of Princess Shenxiao. She looked more lively, gentle, and even a little cute. Her eyes were also clear and lively, but she was a little timid and didn't dare to look Zhang Zizai in the eye. But besides this clarity, there was a kind of gray in her expression, so if you look deeper, you will feel that she is soulless. I don't know what she is thinking. It seems that she is always confused about the whole world. "You are so beautiful, why do you hide every day?" Zhang Zizai asked. "No, She didn't know what to say. She was used to it. If it wasn't inconvenient, she would even want to hide her eyes. Let's talk. Don't worry, I won't fall in love with you. I have a sweetheart. Zhang Zizai tilted his head and looked at the girl while the carriage kept bumping. Is it my sister? She asked. She is going to kill me. If I like her, then I am sick, Zhang Zizai said. She blinked and did not continue to ask. So, if Emperor Yanlong arranges a marriage, you will cooperate honestly, right? Zhang Zizai asked. She nodded. Why does she seem not to care about fame at all? Because after getting married, she was already Zhang Zizai's wife to the entire dynasty. Moreover, Zhang Zizai said that he had a sweetheart and his thoughts were not on her at all, but she didn't care either. Why is she so strange? I think I'm sorry for you. I'm really sorry. After you get married, maybe your identity will be a shackles for you. Zhang Zizai was somewhat familiar with her. His attitude was not very good before, but now he realized that he was a bit abrupt. Unexpectedly, she still said, it's okay. It seems like nothing matters. She seems to be used to drifting with the flow, walking around in this world in a daze. If difficulties arise, she just won't leave. Zhang Zizai thought for a long time and could only say, don't worry from now on. If I have the ability, I will definitely clarify our relationship to the world and it will not affect your ability to find the person you like in the future. Let me clarify at that time, saying that the two were only forcibly married by the Yanlong Emperor. They did not like each other or have love. They just maintained their status as husband and wife and lived their own lives. She suddenly smiled softly and said, you are a good person, but don't worry, I won't have anyone I like. Why? Zhang Zizai was dumbfounded. How could a girl not be pregnant? She just smiled and didn't answer. She didn't know what she was thinking. After being silent for about half an hour, she suddenly said, I don't know how long I want to live. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 166. Imperial City, Changal Palace. Changal Palace, also known as East Palace, is located in the east of the Imperial City and is the prince's dormitory. There was constant music and singing in the East Palace, and the prince was surrounded by dozens of beauties, intoxicated and dreaming. After having fun and enjoying the beauty, he lay lazily on the bench. Aunt Ying, it's been a few days, there's enough time, why hasn't the news spread yet? The prince said. In the corner, a hot-looking woman in black came out. She leaned gently against the prince and pressed against his body. Your Highness is really going too far. He knew I was coming over and didn't leave some food for me. I know I was wrong. I will definitely fill up the inventory next time and leave it to Aunt Ying. Forget it, I don't want your mother to see it again and blame me for not letting his son go, the woman in black said with a sweet smile. The two laughed and laughed for a while, and the prince asked again, tell me, why is there no turmoil so far? It's time to start the fire. The woman in black said, Prince, there is no need to worry. After all, it is a wilderness, and it will take some time to reach Yanlong Ruins and Daejiang City. Are you sure you killed him? I have killed thousands of people. I passed through their hearts. I fell to the ground and lost my breath. I couldn't die anymore. The prince smiled and said, Xiao Zhao is in a bad situation now. Ling Xian is right next to him, and the people around Zhang Zizai must know who did it. This two-bird with one stone strategy worked really well. As soon as he finished speaking, someone suddenly approached and opened the door. It was a woman with a phoenix crown, a majestic face, and she was a bit older. Although she still had a domineering look, she was obviously not as good as the concubine Su. Mother, the prince quickly arranged his clothes and saluted. Xueying, Didn't I warn you last time? That woman was the queen of the Yanlong Emperor, and she stared at the two of them with an ugly expression. The woman in black quickly said, Sister Yuan, you have misunderstood. I definitely didn't do it this time. The queen ignored her, but came forward and glared at the prince, asking, Do you know what happened? The prince shook his head in astonishment. The queen said, Some time ago, Your Majesty received news that Zhang Yunting's youngest son had been assassinated. At that time, the news had just spread, and all the targets were pointed at Princess Shenxiao. However, it should be you who did it. The prince smiled and said, My mother understands me. I heard Xiao Zhao said that she wanted to kill Zhang Zizai, so I helped her do it. The queen said angrily, But I just got the news that Zhang Zizai is not dead at all. He has appeared in Nanling City. There is no movement from Princess Ruohua in Dajiang City, and there is even less movement from the Temple of Sacrifice. They killed people, but they didn't kill them all. The woman in black next to her was shocked and said, Impossible. A sword pierced the heart. I have checked everything. I have no energy and almost all blood. With my strength, how can it be possible to deal with the Xuanmei realm? Something went wrong. I knew it was you who did it. If there was anything wrong, who should I ask? Zhang Zizai is alive and well. The prince and the woman in black looked at each other. Impossible, absolutely impossible, the woman in black gritted her teeth. The prince said, It seems that Zhang Zizai is very lucky. He is not dead yet. My plan did not succeed. Do you still want to succeed? Are you a fool to be the emperor? Let me tell you, he has been at concubine Su's house these days. Ever since he got the news of Zhang Zizai's death, he has not made any movement. When Long Zhao went to seek clarification, I don't mean to blame Long Zhao at all. He knows his precious daughter better than you. Let me tell you, he probably guessed that you did it. Impossible, Prince Longyun shook his head. He did it perfectly. He said, Since Zhang Zizai is alive, he must know that it is Xiao Zhao. Next, he may seek revenge, and I can stay out of it. Silly boy, do you know what the key is? The key is not who the world thinks the murderer is, but your weight in the eyes of your father. If he knows that you did it, he doesn't need evidence at all. In the future, you will only losing ground more and more. The queen was really mad. According to my estimation, since Zhang Zizai is not dead, this matter will not become a big deal, and the boy will not make this matter public to the world. After all, there is no evidence, and he will even target Xiao Zhao. But what? I feel that your father will only become more and more disappointed with you. In the past, you were 100% the successor, but now it is different. This little girl Long Zhao is such a genius. You may have lost the initiative at this step. Whatever you do in the future, you must discuss it with me. The prince gritted his teeth. He admitted that what the queen said made sense, but he still felt that why could Emperor Yanlong think that he had done it? How could he trust Xiao Zhao so much? Do you feel like an outsider? He was unwilling to give in. And you, get out of here, as far away as you can, so that no one will recognize you, and don't come back to harm my son until this storm calms down, the queen angrily scolded the woman in black. I know. The woman in black shook her head helplessly. Reflect carefully. I will test your majesty in the next few days. Don't act rashly. Remember to discuss everything with me. After the queen finished speaking, she left the East Palace. The prince fell into deep thought. Long Zhao, a prostitute, haha. He couldn't help but sneer. He didn't expect that a kid with a big fart could compete with him. The queen mother said that I have lost the opportunity, he asked the woman in black. Actually, that's a bit exaggerated. I think there's nothing wrong with this move. The Yanlong Emperor may not be able to think of you. The woman in black curled her lips. In this case, we can't wait for death. We must find a way to completely destroy Xiao Zhao, and it needs to be a foolproof strategy. This is difficult. After all, His Majesty can see everything clearly. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. There is always a way, it's seamless. He gritted his teeth. I'll leave first and come back when the storm calms down. No, the prince pulled her into his arms and said, please spend your last night with me. Are you okay? Aunt Ying can't just deal with it casually. How dare you underestimate me and make you kneel down and beg for mercy? The prince laughed loudly. After accelerating on the last day, Zhang Zizai recovered a lot, galloped forward, and finally returned to his hometown, Daejiang King City, when night fell. As if they knew he was coming back, the entire Daejiang City was awake tonight. There were a large number of guards standing on the city walls and the streets were full of people. Originally, Zhang Zizai won the first place in the 6th Prefecture Grand Competition, and there would definitely be fireworks in full bloom when he returned on this day, but Princess Ruohua stopped him. Now is not the time to celebrate. The young prince is back. For a time, the royal city was boiling. The city gate opened, and Zhang Zizai rode on horseback and walked into King Zhang City. Many people looked at him with fiery eyes. Number 1 in the 6 Prefectures Festival. De Zhang Cheng straightened his back again. Mother. Zhang Zizai saw her. At night, she was wearing a cloak and standing in the wind, waiting for him. All 3 children are back. Lu Yu and she came over, holding a bouquet of flowers and placed them next to the ice coffin. The eyes were filled with mist. Sorry. Maybe these 3 words represent her mood. After returning, Lu Yuan's body will be placed first and will be buried tomorrow in the ancestral mausoleum of the Kailan royal family. It was the resting place of heroes. Some people objected, but Ruohua suppressed it. Emperor Yanlong agreed to give him a grand burial, so it was not their turn to speak. In the palace of Prince Daejiang. Mother, this is Princess Lingxian. Zhang Yanning introduced Princess Ruohua. Ruohua then smiled slightly and looked at the girl who was about to become his daughter-in-law. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 167. After all, she was a royal princess, so Mrs. Ruohua prepared a family dinner for her. On the round table, there were only Princess Ruohua and her 3 children. After Lu Dingxian came back, he accompanied Lu Yuan along with his mother and family. Zhang Zizai also wanted to go, but Ruohua pulled him back. I wonder if the princess is still used to southern food, Princess Ruohua asked dignifiedly with a smile. I'm used to it. Princess Lingxian moved very lightly. As soon as she sat down, her eyes were attracted by the table full of food. Our family is very casual, you're welcome, just eat. Zhang Zizai's eyes lit up when he saw her. He had known that this guy loved to eat, so he was probably suffocated on the way. Princess Ruohua glanced at Zhang Zizai helplessly, wondering why this boy spoke in such an impolite tone. However, Princess Lingxian was not restrained. She did eat very slowly, but she almost never stopped. Ruohua wanted to talk to her several times, but when he saw that she was eating happily, he couldn't speak. He could only smile and said, as long as you like it, I'll ask people to make more. Thank you. Princess Lingxuan's face turned red when she saw everyone was looking at her. There are times when people like her are embarrassed. Ruohua still found an opportunity to ask for help. Seeing her posture, Zhang Zizai was clearly very satisfied with his future wife. Actually, your parents and I know each other. Oh, she trembled slightly, then raised her head and said, Princess, I'm full. She seemed unwilling to talk about this topic, so Princess Ruohua smiled and changed the subject. After the meal, Princess Lingxian said she wanted to go back to rest, so Ruohua asked Zhang Yanning and Ruo Xiaoyu to see her off. This kid seems a little depressed after sending him away, Ruohua sat in front of Zhang Zizai and looked at him. My mother didn't even expect that you would have such a great opportunity in Yanlong ruins. Now the Temple of Sacrifice has regarded you as a treasure. Zhang Zizai nodded and said, absolutely. I know all the details of the Six Houses Gala. Xiaobao, this is really beyond my mother's expectations. Zhang Zizai said, you don't know everything. Your son was almost exterminated, do you understand? What? Ruohua's face changed and he became angry. Zhang Zizai had nothing to hide from his mother, so he told her everything about Shen Xiao. It's this talisman. If it weren't for it, I would be a corpse in front of you now. He opened his chest and pointed at the immortal talisman. Mother doesn't know that you have experienced so many disasters. She held Zhang Zizai's hand, tears almost flowing down her face. Zhang Zizai couldn't bear to see her cry, so he quickly said, okay, don't cry. I don't have anything wrong with me now. If I survive the catastrophe, I will be lucky in the future. This little Zhao, a little girl back then, how could she be so insidious? It must have been her mother who taught her how to do this kind of thing. Ruohua was so angry that her teeth itched. I have defeated her at the Six Palaces festival and taught her some lessons, but it is not enough. When I find a chance, I will have to treat her again, Zhang Zizai said calmly. Be careful, you know. After all, she is a real princess and must not lose her mind. Zhang Zizai nodded. Perhaps this is really the talisman of immortality. Don't let others know about it in the future, Ruohua warned. After chatting for a while, Zhang Zizai said, Shen Xiao failed to assassinate me this time, but the Yanlong Emperor must know. Will she be punished? Xiao Zhao, I think she was just defeated by you, so she wouldn't be so stupid. Assassinating you would have a great impact on her reputation, Ruohua said thoughtfully. You mean, it's not necessarily her? Zhang Zizai judged from his figure that the killer should be Qin Qin. It's possible, but it's not necessarily that someone framed her. Of course, I'm just talking about a possibility, she said. When you go back to Yanlong ruins and judge based on the situation, you can't bite Princess Shen Xiao to death. In fact, it's best not to mention this matter. Make a fuss, it won't do anything. Zhang Zizai knew in his heart that if it was Shen Xiao who did it, it would be useless if he made the matter bigger. This life and death revenge would definitely have to be avenged, so it would be better to wait for a better opportunity. The important thing now is to get my brother back safely from the hell. Mom, Lingxian and I have reached an agreement. Even if we get married, we will not interfere with each other and live our own lives from now on, Zhang Zizai said. Nonsense, Ruohua glared at him. What are you doing? Zhang Zizai was depressed. Princess Lingxian is a very good girl, why not? Mother is a good judge of people. Apart from being melancholy and a little lackluster, she has no other problems. The little girl is very good looking. Zhang Zizai was a little confused and said, the key is that they don't like me either, so you can't force it? Ruohua said, I think you must have been obsessed with the 9 Immortals priest, and you don't want to think about it. How can someone like you be so much older than you? Yes. You're fine with me. All mothers-in-law in the world probably don't like their daughter-in-law being older than their son, and at least 10 years older. This is understandable, but Zhang Zizai is too lazy to listen to her ideas when it comes to relationships. In fact, she was just worried. After all, the 9 Immortals were people she didn't understand at all. She always had a hunch that Zhang Zizi couldn't control her. Even if Juxian is willing to get together with him, looking at Zhang Zizai, he is a typical example of someone who forgets his mother after marrying his wife. Actually, it would be great if you and Princess Lingxian could get along. Mom just doesn't like it. You sacrifice your own happiness in exchange for your brother's survival. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. If it's a mutually beneficial relationship, then it's perfect and no one has to sacrifice. In the end, she still thinks about herself. Zhang Zizai patted her shoulder and said loudly, "Princess Lingxian, and I don't think this is anything, so don't worry about it." Sister Juxian said that this is equivalent to a fake marriage, and we can divorce in the future. What do you mean? You want to divorce the princess? Ruohua is so angry that his son has indeed been abducted by others. Now he talks strangely and doesn't even have to worry about it. Zhang Ziyi stayed with her all night. Under the starry sky, he listened to his mother's nagging and felt so happy at this moment. "Mom, don't worry, no matter what happens in the future, I will protect you and won't let anyone bully you." "Then what if the 9 immortals bully me?" Ruohua showed a sly smile. Damn it, women, no one is easy to deal with." Later in the night, she suddenly burst into tears again and said, "I miss your dad. This stinky guy can even appear in Yanlong ruins, and he doesn't even come to see me. Mom, it's not easy to get here to Yanlong ruins. Then you can take a peek at me secretly. Maybe he saw it and left. Is it possible?" Of course Zhang Zizai paused and said, "Actually, I think he must have many unspeakable difficulties. If he doesn't come back to see you, there must be great restrictions. You have to trust him." "Of course I believe it, if you tell me." Haha. Zhang Zizai scratched his head and smiled. "They are indeed in love." "Do you know why our relationship is so good?" Ruohua asked. "Why?" "Because I'm 1 year younger than your father." This hint is too obvious. Princess Lingxian is also 1 year younger than Zhang Zizai. Actually, the most puzzling thing is why he wanted to grant you a marriage, and even promised to let you go. Junjian, after joking, her expression became serious. Zhang Zizai explained Juxian's guess. "That may be one reason, but it feels like it's not enough. There must be other reasons." Zhang Zizai also knew it, but if he wasn't at his level, how could he figure it out? For them, both of them now want Zhang Junjian alive. For this reason alone, they must do this. Zizi, you have to remember that you must observe more and try to come up with other reasons for him before the wedding. This is very important. Otherwise, we may fall into a trap, which may even affect your father. Of course, my mother will too. All parties are tempted to think about this issue. Zhang Zizai nodded. In fact, he thought so too. You must guess the purpose beyond your royal status, otherwise you will be very passive. If you are not careful, you may be in danger. When you return to Yanlong ruins, the wedding date will probably be decided. I will go there then. After all, such a large Zhongwang city still needs her to support it. If she is absent for a long time, Zhang Entropy and his group will cause trouble again. The next day, Lu Yuan was buried, and Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing observed mourning together. 7 days after the burial, they organized themselves and returned to Yanlong ruins. This time, they were secretly protected by people sent by Princess Ruohua. In fact, when he came back, Ruohua heard the news and sent someone to greet them, but he didn't show up in secret. These days, Princess Lingxian has been in the room all the time. When the time came, she left Dajiangqing City. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 168. The way back was smooth. It wasn't that Zhang Zizai didn't want to get to know Princess Lingxian better, but Princess Lingxian herself was in the carriage and never came out. She maintained this sense of propriety, so that neither of them would be embarrassed, just right. Zhang Zizai slightly modified his attitude, and when it was necessary to communicate, he was still more polite to Princess Lingxian. It felt like a gentleman's friendship. The road was smooth, and soon they arrived at Yanlongxiu. He first sent Princess Lingxian outside the imperial city, and then sent Zhang Yuning back to the Huguo mansion. When he returned to the temple, he had become the focus, and all the worshippers cast admiring eyes when they saw him. "Panda, start over," Okay, he turned his head and looked at Lu Dingxing and asked. The reality was too cruel, and he became silent. No problem, Lu Dingxing took a deep breath. He knew that from today he would fight for revenge, and he knew who killed Lu Yuan. He remembered those people clearly. Let them see how terrible Lu Yuan's son is in the future, Zhang Zizai said. Men have to grow up eventually. He felt the inner strength of Lu Dingxing, which is actually the most important thing in cultivation. Back to Juxian Pavilion, Bai Shenjin and Wang Qian have been waiting for them for a long time. The 5 people gathered again. Panda, drink some. Wang Qian took out a pot of fine wine from somewhere. I brought it from home. It is brewed by the best poisonous insects. It won't kill people, but it is very strong. Drink it, haha. Lu Dingxing drank a lot, but he was not drunk. Taking advantage of the alcohol, he started to practice. Boss, the priest asked you to find her after you come back. Hurry up, Bai Shenjin laughed, his eyes ambiguous. Go to hell, why didn't you say it earlier? I'll give you some wine to give you courage first. Zhang Zizai quickly abandoned them and came to Juxian. As soon as he opened the door, he was pulled into a warm, fragrant, and soft embrace. His face was covered with soft things, and he was almost suffocated. He got drunk and held her waist with his backhand, holding her down. Soft jade in her arms, all the beauty of the world, in her hands. After holding her for a long time, her blood was boiling, and she gently pushed Zhang Zizai away, looked at him with a sweet smile, and asked, "Is Princess Lingxian pretty? I almost died, and you are still jealous." Zhang Zizai wanted to hug her again, but as soon as he stretched out his hand, she slapped her red. "Let me see." She roughly tore open Zhang Zizai's clothes, looked at her chest, and said, "No, there is no wound, I don't even have the chance to pretend to be distressed." She was talking with a smile, but the mist in her eyes was spreading uncontrollably. She hugged Zhang Zizai again, choking and saying, "You are mine, I don't want you to die. Isn't it not dead?" Zhang Zizai said with a smile. He stretched out his hand, thinking that it should be okay to take advantage of her at such a sentimental time, so he pretended not to care and gently covered her hips with his hands. Snap! It was slapped open again, and Zhang Zizai grimaced in pain. "You bastard, interrupting my sentimental talk!" She glared at Zhang Zizai, stretched out her hand and pinched the inside of his arm, and asked, "What does it feel like?" "It hurts so much." Zhang Zizai gritted his teeth and said. "Ah! It hurt too much," and he still cried out in pain. "At that time, I was really dead. At that time, my mind was full of you. It's hard to describe how desperate it was." He recalled that time, and what he said was actually true. "Then you lay in Princess Lingxuan's carriage and fell in love with her, right?" She still didn't give Zhang Zizai a chance to be sentimental. "How do you know?" "I guessed that you really wanted to cheat." "I was wronged. At that time, my body was almost drained of blood, and I was unconscious for several days before waking up," Zhang Zizai said hurriedly. She was going to beat Zhang Zizai, but when she heard that the blood was almost drained, she stopped. Her eyes were full of tears, her face was full of heartache, and finally she hugged him and whispered, "I won't let you die again. The opportunity has come." Zhang Zizai pinched him hard this time. The feeling of full hands was so good, he was ready to be beaten to death. However, she didn't move. She lowered her head and looked at herself with a drunken face. "Silly, kiss me and reward you with rebirth." Zhang Zizai's brain was like exploding, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He opened his mouth and went down, just eager to enjoy her red lips and sweet tongue, but he didn't expect that the next moment he could only scream because there was a blood mark on his lips. Shocking. And it was when he was happiest and least prepared. This woman, the routine is really deep. She laughed so hard that her branches shook, and her perfect figure made people's eyes red. "I don't care, I still made a profit." I plan not to wash my mouth for half a year. It has your taste on it, Zhang Zizai said roguely. You cherish it so much, I will give you another one, do you want it? Juxian asked with a charming look. Yes, Zhang Zizai said. Aren't you afraid that I will bite you? Biting is also a kiss, and if you kiss it, you will make a profit. What a fool. She suddenly closed her eyes, with a mysterious glow in her red lips, she was waiting. This time, Zhang Zizai believed that she was willing to give herself a reward for rebirth. He was excited but slow, and went down gently, finally touching the red lips. At that moment, it seemed as if he had touched heaven. He enjoyed it, as if in a dream, and stretched out his tongue. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. Ah! The scream of pain resounded throughout the 9 Immortals pavilion. His tongue was bitten. Zhang Zizai wanted to cry but had no tears. Of course, in fact, he had kissed twice, and the taste was endless. When can the routine not be so deep? The ancients said that as long as the routine is deep, the iron rod can be ground into a needle. I am not grinding you. Grind it into a needle? Damn. Zhang Zizai was dumbfounded. She was really open-minded in her words. You've taken advantage of me and stolen my first kiss. You'll have to work for me from now on. You've saved your first kiss until this age, and you still have the nerve to say it out loud. Aren't you ashamed? Wow, I'm so pissed off. I'm going to beat you to death today. She gritted her teeth and really wanted to beat Zhang Zizai to death. He dared to say such a thing. So, they made a lot of noise here, making bang 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 sounds, which made the disciples of the entire Juxian pavilion unable to practice properly. Everyone stretched their heads to look over here. What are they doing? I don't know, they were babbling and it was very intense. Are they fighting? No, how could Zhang Zizai be a match for the priest? Is he? Oh, I can't think too much. I blush easily. Everyone ran out, and almost brought out small stools to watch. An hour later, Zhang Zizai came out with disheveled clothes and light steps. In an instant, dozens of people gave him a thumbs up. What are you doing? Zhang Zizai was stunned. He was just beaten for being mean. What's the point of giving him a thumbs up? Hee hee. Dozens of people were silent, all with ill intentions, smiling ambiguously, and the scene was spectacular. I know what kind of lipstick the priest used today. I also have this color, a female disciple said excitedly. Everyone looked at Zhang Zizai's mouth and saw that color on it. Hee hee. People were more convinced and laughed more brightly. Vile. Zhang Zizai cursed and ran away. Get out of here, if you keep watching the fun, everyone will stand upside down for 2 hours, the voice of Juxian came from inside. With a swish, the yard was empty in an instant. Zhang Zizai continued to practice. He knew that there would be more challenges to face next. The next evening, there was some noise outside, and people were coming towards him. Zhang Zizai opened the door, and a woman in a light golden dress stood in front of him, slightly raised her head, and looked at him intently. Zhang Zizai, I want to go in, Princess Shenxiao said. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 169. Zhang Zijian couldn't find a chance to settle accounts with her, but he didn't expect that she would come to him in person. Regarding the Dragon Soul Jade matter, although he had humiliated Princess Shenxiao at the Six Palaces Gala, Zhang Zizai felt that the account had not been settled yet. And the revenge for the assassination, if it were confirmed, Zhang Zizai would have the intention to kill her. If Ruohua hadn't asked him to observe more and saw her here, he would have drawn his sword. Anyway, Zhang Zizai hates her very much now. Come in, he snorted coldly, turned his body to let her in, and then closed the door hard. Today, her light golden dress looks particularly domineering. She actually likes to wear this shoulder-length dress, which exposes her snow-white shoulders, and collarbones, which is bright and moving. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. She is beautiful, but she is too cruel on the inside. She was quite familiar with him. After she came in, she faced Zhang Zizai directly and said, "I'm here to tell you that the assassination was not done by me at all. I'm not that stupid." "Who are you?" "After I came to Yanlong Ruins, you were the only one who deliberately tried to harm me. I ruined your dream of being the best in the world at the Six Palaces gathering. Didn't you just want to kill me?" "Princess Shenxiao, how could you don't dare to do it," Zhang Zizai said with a smile. "You are so sure it's me, did Lingxian tell you?" she asked through gritted teeth. "Does she need to say something? Isn't the person who took action the man named Qin next to you?" "You fart, and Qin has always been in the palace and hasn't gone anywhere," she said anxiously. "Do you have evidence?" She looked slightly angry and said, "And Qin rarely goes out. Where can I get the evidence? I tell you, it really wasn't me. Why can't you believe me?" Zhang Zizai smiled and said, "How can I believe you? Aren't you afraid that you will make me cut off my descendants again?" Princess Shenxiao found that for some reason, she just couldn't keep calm and say what she thought about in front of him. She took a deep breath, tried to control herself, and said, "I'm telling you, because I displayed the wild totem at the Six Palaces festival, the prince was already thinking of ways to kill me. He must have done this, use this method to get rid of you, and then put the blame on me." Zhang Zizai thought of Prince Longyun. He actually thought it was possible. After seeing her acting a little out of control today, he actually knew it. The struggle between royal families is inherently terrifying. Although he knew something, he couldn't be sure. He sneered and said, "You say it's him, but where's the evidence? Who knows that it's you who is here to sow discord, and wants to use me as a pawn to help you fight against the prince? It's impossible for me to trust you. Why are you so stupid?" She was speechless. "That's better than your viciousness." Zhang Zizai waved his hands, looking indifferent. "Go away, don't give up until you leave. When I have evidence, I will return everything you gave me." Princess Shenxiao. She and the former Xiao Zhao were really two people. Zhang Zizi couldn't understand why she had such a bad temper. How could she pretend to be the well-behaved Huaichun girl she once was? Especially after the Six Houses gathering, Zhang Zizai discovered that perhaps due to her inner frustration, she had been in a manic state of mind and could no longer calm down. "Ignorance, stupid," she pursed her lips and passed Zhang Zizai to leave. After taking only 2 steps, she looked back at Zhang Zizai and said, "Lingxian is a silly child. I warn you, you must never touch her, even if you get married, she has nothing to do with you." Zhang Zizai laughed dumbly and said, "Are you kidding? After we get married, we will be husband and wife, and we will naturally live together. What does it have to do with you, an outsider?" The fire in his stomach hadn't subsided yet. Although she was a princess, Zhang Zizai had beaten her before, so he really wasn't afraid of her at this time. Princess Shenxiao was completely offended by Zhang Zizai's words of outsider. "Zhang Zizai, don't mess with me again." "Who messed with you?" "I'm just saying that it's none of your business if we get married." "It's not you who is getting married." He rolled his eyes. "This guy really cares a lot." Her eyes were red, her fists were clenched, and she suddenly unclenched them. She sneered, "I think I don't have to worry about Xingxuan anymore. You are already dead. You can't touch her even if you want to." "What did you say?" Zhang Zizai felt his head heat up, and blood rushed to his head. Zhang Zizai didn't even bother to argue with her when she said such words at the Six Houses grand gathering. As a young man with a strong temper, she kept saying things like father-in-law and eunuch. How could anyone not be angry? He was already in control, but sometimes just one sentence could really explode his popularity. I said you can't do it anymore. Princess Shenxiao felt happy when she saw that she had finally angered him. It was Zhang Zizai who made her so angry just now. I'll kill you, Zhang Zizai roared, and within a few steps he appeared in front of her. He put his hand directly around her weak neck, pulled her head away, opened his mouth and pressed down on her. Woo! Princess Shenxiao was stunned. Snap! Zhang Zizai pinned her down on the table, pressed her down on it, and gnawed at her wildly. He also took a lot of advantage in his hands. Now his anger finally subsided. He then let go and took a few steps back to avoid letting this guy. After reacting, he drew his sword and cut himself into pieces. I'm telling you, if you say that to me again, even if you are a princess, I will strip you naked. Zhang Zizai had never thought that he had kissed two beauties in 2 days. He was so angry just now that he couldn't stand it. After all, he was a teenager and couldn't stand such words. As for the taste, to be honest, he didn't know what it tasted like. He just nibbled it and felt that the taste was different from Juxian's. It wasn't so fragrant and aftertasteful, but it was quite fresh. From the time Zhang Zizai pounced on her and pressed her on the table to the end, she was confused. At this time, she slowly slid off the table and almost couldn't stand. She held the table, her hair was messy, and she looked at Zhang Zizai blankly. Didn't your mother tell you not to talk nonsense about men? Zhang Zizai was a little depressed when he saw her in this state. His anger had subsided a little, and he didn't speak as hotly as before. She actually squatted on the ground, buried her head, and shed tears. Zhang Zizai was helpless now. No matter how vicious a woman cried, especially a beautiful woman, it was still helpless. He was really blinded by anger just now. Now he thinks that he shouldn't do this. There was already a grudge, and she was going to take his life next. Why are you crying? You were quite proactive on the god sacrifice ship, Zhang Zizai said. But she still squatted and sobbed. Stand up. Okay, I apologize to you. I was wrong, but I tell you, you didn't succeed, and I'm still alive and well. Next time you use this to provoke me, I'll let you. You're dead, Zhang Zizai. She stood up, her face full of tears, and she couldn't wipe them off. Zhang Zizai pouted. Xiao Zhao is so good, what do you want to do? Princess Shenxiao, annoying. He rolled his eyes. Shut up, today's shame, one day, I will pay you back 1,000 times, she trembled and gritted her teeth. Zhang Zizai was speechless and said, are you sick? I kissed you once, and you want me to kiss you 1,000 times. I don't want you to kiss me 1,000 times. Wow. It was so simple and rude. She cried again. Get out of here quickly, so that I won't cry like a river and drown me. He just wanted to send this lunatic away now. She didn't say anything, but tried her best to control herself and wipe away her tears. It took a long time for her to recover. Is there a mirror? She took a deep breath and asked Zhang Zizai. Then what about that? She walked over, tidied up her messy clothes in front of the mirror, put rouge on her face, and then reapplied lipstick to dress herself up normally. She was ready to leave. Oh, you won't be reluctant to wash your face for half a year? Zhang Zizai asked. I just want to cut off your mouth. She looked at Zhang Zizai coldly. Just say it's delicious, don't be polite to me, and treasure it in my mouth. Do you want to take it out and taste it in the dead of night? He smiled. He found that he couldn't settle these accounts now, so he made her tremble all over, and she also felt revengeful. Very cool. She learned her lesson and stopped talking to Zhang Zizai, so as not to be angry to death by him. Tomorrow morning, the emperor will summon you to the palace to meet him. Don't be late. Your wedding date has been set. She pushed the door open, walked out, turned around and said something, then closed the door heavily. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 170. Tomorrow, when he enters the palace, the Flame Dragon Emperor will officially announce the wedding date, and the matter will be settled. Announcing it in front of all the civil and military officials is an announcement to the world, and the news has already spread all over the world. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. The heavy sound of Shen Xiao closing the door is still echoing, and the room still smells of her powder. Zhang Zizai scratched his head and said to himself, I can't be so impulsive next time. To be honest, he has never met such an annoying person as Princess Shen Xiao, so he really couldn't help it. Thinking about it now, I feel so guilty and feel so sorry for Juxian. Fortunately, I gave her my first time yesterday. It's really embarrassing to say that he is a young prince. Other young princes have a bunch of experienced maids serving them at a young age. Next time, I must not have anything to do with her. Hatred, can't forget. He adjusted his mood and threw Princess Shen Xiao out of his mind. To be honest, she is indeed beautiful. If a big man humiliates me like this, I will definitely not be able to swallow my words. I thought of Lu Dingxing's big mouth for no reason, which was really creepy. Tomorrow, Jinluan Palace. That place must be visited. Fortunately, the matter with Ling Xian has been made clear. I don't know why the personalities of the sisters are so different, but Ling Xian is better, otherwise this marriage will be very troublesome. Fortunately, it is Ling Xian. If it is this Princess Shen Xiao, it must be difficult to have nothing to do with each other in the future, and the process will be chaotic. Now Zhang Zizai wants to draw his sword when he sees her. Zhang Zizai is still full of apologies to Princess Ling Xian. He has wondered many times whether there is any way to compensate her, but she doesn't care about anything. Zhang Zizai even said that they may be able to dissolve their marriage in the future, and she doesn't care. She said she would never have someone she liked, and that she didn't know how long she wanted to live. Do all girls who grew up in the imperial city have such special personalities? My sister is better, gentle and sensible in comparison. Zhang Yuning is beautiful, gentle, well-educated, and perfect. Of course, in his heart, another person must be more perfect. He will face tomorrow's events with a normal heart and deal with them as they come. Now that night has fallen, he waited for a while, but Juxian didn't come, which means she might not be here today, so Zhang Zizai practiced on his own. On the one hand, he rushed to the 5th level of the Xuanmei realm. On the other hand, he continued to practice the Taixu Universe soul refining technique. On the way to and from the great Zhongqing city, Zhang Zizai actually put a lot of energy on the talisman of the life and death talisman sect in the Space Jade Pendant. Especially after the mysterious talisman saved his life, he knew the preciousness of the talisman of the life and death talisman sect. He selected the most basic talisman and began to study it, named Wuxian, Soul Calming Talisman. Immortality is a talisman of various types of benefits such as healing and acceleration. Lifelessness is a pure attack, and it tends to attack the soul, and it erodes various terrible negative forces. Among them, the soul-soothing talisman belongs to this type. In battle, if you hit the enemy, you can shake his soul and cause his mental will to be unstable. If used well, it will have a huge effect. This soul-soothing talisman is a Chen-level talisman, surpassing the Fireball talisman. The difficulty is more than 10 times that of the Deceleration talisman. If Zhang Zizai had not felt that his soul realm was still improving recently, he would definitely not dare to directly think about the Chen-level talisman. This soul-soothing talisman is estimated to have terrible lethality for the totem warriors of the entire Xuanmei realm. He directly used the living pen and dead ink stone to draw this soul-soothing talisman. These two treasures seem to be destroyed, but a lean camel is bigger than a horse, and it is much easier to use than the pen, ink, paper, and ink stone of Zhang Zizai's newbie package. Especially when drawing the talisman of the life and death talisman sect, it seems to have a great bonus. After a while, I should be able to get this soul calming talisman done. By then, my ability in runes will be greatly improved. Beginners directly challenge Chen level talismans. If they succeed, Zhang Zizai will be a Chen level totem talisman master. He is not in a hurry. If Zhang Junjian can come out alive, he will have plenty of time in the future. Now let's see when Emperor Yanlong arranges for him to get married with Ling Xian. Zhang Zizai must want to do it as soon as possible, because in that case, Zhang Junjian will come out quickly, and he doesn't want his brother to suffer anymore. That night, he was still studying the details of the soul calming talisman. There are at least more than 50 people from unknown eras who have left valuable experiences in the classics. These people have passed on martial arts, which is really a great merit. Zhang Zizai decided that if he could succeed, he would also write his own experience on it for future generations to learn. The next morning, before dawn, Zhang Zizai left the temple alone, passed through the empty streets, and arrived at the imperial city before dawn. He was now a famous figure in the dynasty. The imperial guards saw him and let him go. "Young prince, Eunuch Qian ordered me to guide you to the Golden Palace." As soon as he entered the magnificent city gate, a young eunuch spoke to Zhang Zizai. He kept a smile on his face, which would not disappear for a long time, but it was hard to guess what he was thinking. This was their survival rule, and they could only smile. "Lead the way. The buildings in the imperial city are much more magnificent than those in the great Zhongqing city. The Golden Throne Hall is right in front of the inner part of the imperial city." Zhang Zizai passed through several gates, went up all the way, walked up thousands of steps, and finally saw the magnificent Golden Throne Hall. That is the place where the dynasty discusses politics and the core of the world. The morning court has not started yet. Please go to the side hall to wait. Many ministers are already there. It is not possible to enter the Golden Throne Hall for the time being, so Zhang Zizai followed the man into the side hall. After arriving at the side hall, a white-faced man came up with a smile on his face and said, "This is the young prince Zhang Zizai. I am Qian Yao, the young prince can call me Eunuch Qian." Eunuch Qian is a big celebrity in front of His Majesty, please take care of him, Zhang Zizai said calmly with a smile. On the day of the 6 prefectures grand meeting, when they besieged King Zilan, he also took action in the end, and his strength was quite strong. We saw the young prince's performance that day clearly. He is really a young hero, and we all admire him, he smiled. However, he was busy. There were many princes and ministers around him, all of whom were powerful figures. He asked the little Yuanzi to accompany Zhang Zizai and greeted other people. Zhang Zizai had seen some of those princes and ministers before, and they were all people who had attacked his father, such as the Prime Minister Xiang Liuqiu, the Duke of Baoqiu, the ministers of various ministries, and the generals of various parties. However, the 3 Dragon Kings were not there, and they might have left Yanlongxiu. Zhang Zizai stayed in the corner by himself. At this time, the sun had risen and shone in through the window sill. Zhang Zizai turned a corner and saw a girl in a red dress standing in the corner. She was wearing a more formal dress today. Her long dress was embroidered with colorful phoenixes. Her makeup was very delicate. She had a lot of gemstones on her head. She was solemn and had no veil on her face. She looked so beautiful, ethereal, especially her blood-red eyes. They did not look bloody and fierce, but like red gemstones, shining crystal clear in the sun. She stood alone by the window, with her hands on her abdomen, motionless. When Zhang Zizai saw her, she just looked over, her mouth moved slightly, and she lowered her head. Today, she must be there too. Suddenly, there was a noisy sound. It turned out that 2 people came in from outside. Zhang Zizai looked closely and saw that the 2 were talking happily, laughing loudly from time to time. Many princes and ministers also surrounded them and talked together. Hey, King Qingluan also came to the morning court. The little Yuanzi next to him was surprised. The two people who came in were the Crown Prince Longyun and the King of Qingluan. Zhang Zizai narrowed his eyes and looked at the Crown Prince Longyun. Was he the one who asked someone to assassinate him? Seeing him chatting and laughing in the crowd, it seemed that everything was under his control. Suddenly, he looked over here inadvertently, and when he saw Zhang Zizai, his pupils actually shrank. People's reactions at this time are often the most real. When their eyes collided at that moment, Zhang Zizai had a certain degree of certainty in his heart. At least after what happened yesterday, he actually knew that the murderer behind the scenes should not be Princess Shenxiao. Then it is very likely that the Crown Prince wanted to kill himself and put the blame on Princess Shenxiao, but he never expected that Zhang Zizai was not dead and everything was calm. Of course, Zhang Zizai could not be sure. The royal family was so deep, who knew if there would be people hiding, such as other princes. However, no matter who it was, as long as Zhang Zizai was sure, he would definitely avenge this death. When life and death were at stake, this was his most determined idea and could not be changed. If it was this prince, he would have nothing to fear. There are many ways to kill people in this world, and he doesn't have to take revenge directly. Anyone can do it in a shady way. Zhang Zizai, congratulations, it won't be long before you can get the beauty. My sister Lingxian is also a rare beauty in the world. You are so lucky, the prince smiled and said after seeing Zhang Zizai. Zhang Zizai said, the princess is naturally noble, and I am marrying up. As soon as the voice fell, Eunuch Qian announced, the time has come, all ministers enter the palace and have an early court. The Flame Dragon Emperor will soon appear on the dragon throne and rule the world.